Hi there and welcome back. This is Module 6. Title of Module 6 is Defining, Measuring, and Monitoring Behavior. First, as we have done in all modules, a couple acknowledgments. Much of the content shared in this module was developed by members of the OSEP-funded National Technical Assistance Center for Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. So a special thank you to members of our classroom work group and members of the Northeast PBIS network. Orienting to this module. There are some tools and resources you should be aware of. First, as you're viewing here, there of course is a module video. The module video will walk you through the content and slides associated with this module. Corresponding with your progression through the module video will be a module workbook. And finally, module readings and additional resources for you to access to further your learning related to this content. Within this module, some elements to be aware of. When you see this symbol, that means that a stop and jot activity is now assigned. This symbol means that there's going to be a discussion board post. And finally, if you see this symbol, that means there's a workbook quiz. In this module, there's one quiz that is effectively used as a self-assessment. It answers the basic question: do you know the content presented here, or do you have additional questions? There are also coaching activities included in this module. Big question here is, can you implement the content presented in this module in your classroom effectively? And if so, wonderful. If not, what additional action steps may you need to take to do so? How do you, as the learner, get the most out of this module? If you are a pre-service learner coming into this module, the focus for you is for you to become fluent with the basic content and the basic theory being discussed. For you, look for examples of implementation in your clinic placements, and perhaps consider video recording or asking for feedback on your implementation of key practices during your student teaching experiences. If you are a new teacher, the hope for you is a focus on moving from knowledge to implementation practice. Look to set implementation goals and either self-monitor or ask for peer or coach feedback on your use of the key skills being discussed within this module. When a practice isn't working, use your understanding of theory to help you modify or intensify a practice to improve outcomes. Your colleagues, peers, and/or coach can help you with this. And finally, if you're an experienced teacher, look to use the activities as a self-reflection opportunity through this module. Set a new implementation goal for yourself. Consider how you might coach or teach the skills content to a new teacher in your building, and look to review the resources provided to extend your learning with respect to culturally and contextually relevant implementation. As you've seen in previous models, our approach is focused on and grounded in the DBI approach for intensive academic need. You may be familiar with this graphic, as has been discussed previously. Through this approach, from an academic standpoint, what we're looking to do is first identify students who are at risk for academic challenges and match those students with evidence-based, validated intervention programs at a Tier 2 or small group instructional level. From there, we of course are progress monitoring the student's growth or lack thereof. If the student is not making appropriate growth, diagnosing what perhaps we can do better to improve our instruction to support that student, adapting our intervention, and of course continuing to progress monitor. Through these modules, we like to parallel our process to support all students, first focusing on the 5 critical features of classroom management. Our hope is that once the concepts are understood around these different large areas of classroom management, we are monitoring and implementing those with fidelity. When done well, that will support our work over here with our at-risk population focusing on academic skills. So we will progress monitor our implementation of our broadly spread evidence-based classroom management skills. If we progress monitor and behavior and social skills are appropriate and effectively sustained in our classroom, we know we're on the right track. If not, we might look to diagnostically assess where we might have improvement areas in our classroom management, identify intervention adaptations, which might look like increased frequency, duration, or precision of one of these 5 or multiple of these 5 critical features of classroom management. We'll then continue to progress monitor. If we have improved upon the noted identified area, we're on the right track. If not, we may need to further identify ways to adapt our current intervention levels in the classroom. Comprehensively, when done successfully, we will have established an effective classroom management social skills support system within our learning environments. If we can stand by a conclusion that we've done that well, and we're still seeing students struggle academically, we then move into a conversation around what additional academic supports they may need. Through this module, you'll see 5 different parts. By the end of Module 6, you should be able to select an appropriate target behavior, write an operational definition for a target behavior, identify relevant dimensions of behavior. From that conversation, you should be able to choose a measurement system based on these relevant dimensions of behavior. And finally, you should be able to use graphing conventions to create meaningful visual displays of the behavioral data you've tracked.